Hello, everybody. Welcome to our seminar. My name is Carol Siufi. I'm the market research analyst at Branch Food, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all today. By way of introduction, Branch Food is a Boston-based innovation hub that connects innovators across the food value chain. Startup founders and small business owners, corporate leaders, and industry experts come to Branch Food for innovation support, curated networking, and strategic advice. What differentiates us is our specialized focus within the food industry. Upstream and downstream, cross-sector and cross-borders, we are connected with over 15,000 stakeholders across the value chain and are a nexus where founders from around the globe collaborate with leaders and experts for the betterment of our food system. If you're a founder looking for personalized support and strategic advice, please reach out. We'd love to help. And if you're currently fundraising, take a look at our sister company, Branch Venture Group, a network of angel investors that support early stage food ventures, and that was the second most active food investment group in the US in 2021. Visit our website at branchfood.com to learn about our educational seminars. We have many coming up that cover the topic of retail. Today's session, for example, and there's one next week. Our monthly community tables, the monthly networking sessions that we've been hosting for the past 6 years, and our upcoming Food Edge Summit, which is taking place on May 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and which will offer multiple opportunities for you to forge strategic connections with innovators across the value chain. And don't forget to sign up for our monthly newsletter to stay updated on the latest food innovation news, events, and business support resources. Today, we're thrilled to explore the best retail practices for CPG founders planning their national expansion. Special thanks to Trax Retail and specifically Dynamic Merchandising for their support with this webinar. Dynamic Merchandising brings retail execution, merchandising, and data to leading and growth brands in brick and mortar retail. Part of Trax Retail, a global company pioneering computer vision in retail, Trax Retail's platform allows customers to understand what is happening on shelf in every store all the time so they can focus on what they do best, delighting shoppers. Before we begin, a couple of notes. The session is recorded and will be shared with you all. The discussion will last 45 minutes, and the last 15 to 20 minutes will be dedicated to Q&A from the audience. You can submit your questions throughout the session via the Q&A function down below on your screen. With that, I'd like to officially welcome our amazing moderator, Tina Adolfson, Vice President of Marketing at Trax Retail, along with our awesome panelists, Abe Kamark, Founder and CEO at TrueMade Foods, Elizabeth Fisher, Founder and Director at Lava, and Ilana Fisher, Founder and CEO at Wisps. Tina, over to you.
Thank you, Carol. It's always a pleasure to be here with Branch Food and all the entrepreneurs. It's a pleasure to bring the Retail Success Series to everyone. And thank you to our three founders for sharing their ideas today. I'm going to start by asking you to bring out your origin story. How did everything get started? And usually it is a personal story, so I can't wait to hear them all again. Abe, will you go and lead us off?
Sure, happy to. So I'm Abe Kamark, founder and CEO of TrueMade Foods. We make healthy ketchup and barbecue sauces, mustard and sriracha, and hot sauce now. We use veggies as a natural sweetener, so things like carrots and butternut squash pureed and cooked in, so taking out the sugar and adding things like carrots and butternut squash, apple instead, and it works amazing. Product tastes incredible. But yeah, I got started because I hated ketchup. I think it's red sugar. Conventional ketchup is almost more corn syrup than tomatoes. It's got more sugar per ounce than ice cream. And I have 4 kids, and so it really wouldn't have been a problem for me if I didn't have 4 kids, because the problem is when you have 4 kids, you can't avoid ketchup. I tried to keep my kids from eating ketchup, and that didn't work, as most people with young kids know. It's a massive failure. And it was a battle at dinner all the time, and they were pouring ketchup on everything I cooked, almost. And I'm a good cook, so it was really annoying. But they decided to stop losing battles at the dinner table and win the war. And so I worked on developing decided this time to do a better ketchup. And just got lucky that somebody gave me the idea of putting veggies in ketchup. I had tried it before, but wasn't doing it right. And it immediately, kind of set off a light bulb for me, because I was like, I grew up with a Sicilian mom who taught me how to cook pasta sauce early on, and she always used carrots as the natural sweetener to cut the acidity of the tomatoes. And she was like, only lazy Italians use sugar, so I always thought, that was kind of like the way you should cook. And so, we tested out a bunch of different vegetables, especially carrots, and, developed a low sugar ketchup that we launched with in 2015. And then in 2018, launched the no sugar ketchup. And now we have 6 barbecue sauces because we've partnered with the legendary pitmaster Ed Mitchell and his son Ryan, who are just incredible. And they want to reinvent barbecue and bring it back to its roots, to the way it was before corn syrup and sugar was in everything. And we're turning the backyard barbecue into superfoods yet. So that's our goal.
That's great. So no longer an indulgence, it's actually part of getting your veggies into your children.
Exactly.
Ilana, I'd love to go to you. Please tell us about the origin of Wisps.
Sure. So Wisps is actually, I founded Wisps within a larger cheese company called Schumann Cheese. They're a 4th generation family Italian cheese company. And Wisps is sort of similar to Abe's story, inspired by Italian cooking. Italians have for generations grated up Parmesan cheese, baked it in the oven, and turned it into something called frico, which is crispy. It's really delicious. And the problem with it is that it really has a shelf life that's like, 10 to 20 minutes. So you want to make it right before you eat it. We wanted to take that concept and bring it to the world as a snack that people could buy on the shelf. And so we really weren't the people to come up with this idea. There were other companies trying to do this as well. So I would say from our perspective, I can speak to sort of innovation that isn't like the most creative idea. Like Abe's innovation is really, really creative. Ours was a little bit more operational. So we basically spent a few years trying to figure out how to take Parmesan cheese and bake it into a form that was delicious, not too oily, not burnt, and shelf stable, and would last on the shelf. And so we launched Wisps in 2015, and we launched pretty much right into Costco, actually. And so we launched with a pretty big retailer, and then have grown since then to be in about 60,000 doors across the United States.
Congratulations, that's a great success. And Elizabeth, if you would tell us the story of Lava.
Well, I've been in the grocery business my whole career, but Lava was born from a personal health journey. And I like to say that I was a fat phobic female, typical, counting those, 10 calories per gram of fat versus 4 for protein and carbohydrate. But when I got ovarian cancer, my husband said, who's a pathologist, immunologist, said, I think we need to look at cancer as a metabolic disease and not just a genetic one. So we shut off the carbohydrate intake. But in order to really make energy from ketones, you have to get enough fat, which was very difficult to do. So 80% of my calories were from fat, and I was eating a ton of macadamia nuts. I literally could not eat another one. And that's when I found the pili nut. Can you see the pili nut? It is just this beautiful, delicious, buttery nutritional profile, and it is almost entirely from fat. And I was mixing it with a little coconut milk, and it made what we call in yogurt a white mash. It was just this simple, full-bodied, delicious, spoonable product. So that became the commercial journey to turn that into a yogurt, plant-based, simple ingredients called Lava.
Great. So your stories are unique, and it's about the discovery. Now, how did you define your target consumer, and how did that lead you to those first retailers? And I'm going to start off again, kind of in the same order. Abe, finding those, co-parents that also were looking to reduce sugar for their kids. How did you find that? How did you define them?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's been a long journey. It's really tough. The first couple of years were really difficult. We made a lot of serious mistakes. Like we founded the company in 2015, and kind of it really took us till about 2018 to really get things going and really start to stroke. The few mistakes I made early on was kind of following a specialty food path. Not to say that's a bad thing to do, but you really need to know your category, and ketchup really is not like a huge specialty food thing. Like you go into, like, we launched in a lot of these really boutique-ish kind of New York City style stores, even though I'm like in Virginia. I thought New York would be a better place to launch. And ketchup just doesn't sell there. Like people who shop at those stores just don't buy ketchup. Like it's just not a thing. So it's one of the challenges of disrupting a category like ketchup is, the people who are shopping for your product are shopping for your product in regular stores and conventional stores, things like that. The majority of the category happens in conventional. So the key was to find like the natural or better for you stores as our first foothold, because you also don't want to go conventional too fast. We made that mistake too. We launched in Lowe's Foods, which is a great store in North Carolina, a great chain, but was the wrong chain for us to launch it early on, and that was a mistake. We were just fighting it way too hard. So we made those mistakes early on, and then had to scale back and rethink and rebrand and come back out and start to build up regionally. I think the goal is, and I tell everybody now, if you're going to launch, really is you can go conventional if you go local and can support yourself. You should be able to drive to every single store that you're in when you first launch, and that's kind of what we did. Like we did launch in Safeway down here in 2017, 2018 with shippers, and it was perfect because there wasn't a Safeway more than 2 hours from my house. The furthest one was Delaware. I could get to the vast majority of them, and we would get there, make sure the shipper got pulled out, because a lot of times it was in the back, set it up, and then demo the crap out of it for the day, and sell through almost the entire shipper, if not the full shipper. And just did that over and over and over again. And I think you have to physically support your stores early on. So you have to have the right match with what kind of stores you're going into, but also you want to be able to, the more important is to really be in the right store, or be close to that store and be able to physically support it when you first launch.
I agree. I've always recommended the founders do their store visits, do the demos themselves. It will give you the information that you need. And then if you do expand and have to use third-party providers like us, you will understand it so much deeper than if you first time out, you just are looking at a screen and just looking at a report. There's a lot.
You got to know you got to know what the shelves look like and what helps and how you sell on shelf and what helps them. We go into merchandise, like for our category, if we get because ketchup a lot of times gets put at the bottom shelf in some conventional stores, or even natural and better, and like even places like Central Market puts ketchup right on the bottom shelf. And if you're a new product, it's just terrible for you. It doesn't matter because you don't get that organic discovery. You want, like, so for us, I look for stores that have a vertical ketchup aisle or a vertical barbecue sauce aisle where they put the bulk on the bottom and then the newer, smaller stuff at eye level. And that's where we succeed. And so anything that puts us near the bottom, bottom two shelves, like we're done. It's not going to sell well, or we have to support it. So
Totally agree. Elizabeth, how about you? How did you find the fellow cheese lovers in the US?
Oh, sorry, Tina, did you mean?
Find the cheese lover? My bad.
No problem. So sorry, the question was, how did we find them?
Yes, how did you find them? What was your first retailer?
So we launched in Fairway in New York City, but our first sort of big launch was in the Costco Southeast region. And I think that this was actually a really good learning opportunity for us, because we sort of thought of ourselves as also kind of a specialty snack. Like Abe said, we thought we were going to be more appreciated. We were a whole food, single ingredient, more expensive than your average snack. So we sort of thought we were going to be like a Northeast Northwest snack. And then we launched into Costco Southeast, and we were nervous that we weren't going to find our fans down there. And we actually did incredibly well in that region. And it was really good learning for us to realize that what we thought we were providing was true, but it was actually what people were shopping for was taste and flavor. And we offered them a cheese snack that was new and innovative that they loved. And that was a really good sort of moment for us to realize that we had broader appeal than we thought we did.
That's great. And Elizabeth, tell us about finding the fellow plant-based yogurt fans, and how did you reach out to them from the refrigerated section?
Well, I guess because I've been in the food business so long, getting those first POs from distributors was, I really wanted to make it efficient. So my last day working for Pepsi, selling a kombucha, ended one day, and they were still looking at refrigerated specialty dairy the next day. And I brought in the prototype, and the lead times on these category reviews are so long. But this guy was a buyer that I had nurtured and I knew, and he was very creative, and he couldn't believe it. I was there one day selling in one brand, there the next saying, oh, by the way, now I'm selling this. And yes, I need a commitment. And 3 months later, he gave us the commitment, which opened up 2 big UNFI DCs. So that's kind of set the paperwork in action. But I didn't think we were going to be able to get any other retailers. And in the time that followed, we were able to get the attention of Whole Foods Northeast buyer, very, very competitive category yogurt. They say the most competitive, I don't know, but it's brutal. And he's like, he took his time, but he gave us a shot. And then same time Wegmans came in, and they all pulled from the same warehouses. So there was, for us, it's very important to have gotten that volume, the consistent minimum. So the product is fresh and all going to the same location. So I was kind of coordinating multiple cats that pulled out of those 2 DCs.
Very good. Now, once you're on the shelf, the next thing to do is, of course, connect with the shoppers, fly off the shelves, and get into that whole velocity metrics, what buyers are looking for. What were your retailers looking for, and how were you supporting them in their goals? How about we go with Ilana first this time? So what was Costco needing from you?
I think what they needed was a few really simple things, which was great because we didn't have a marketing arm at that point. They needed a bag that was really clear about what was in it, and your palette does a ton of work for you there. So we needed to figure out what to put on the palette to get people to consider. We also invested heavily in demos at the beginning because we were a new product and a new item. And so we knew that people needed to try it. And those demos just performed really well for us. But we, very much marketing at the point of purchase was our strategy for the first 3 years of the business.
Well, demos at Costco, especially before the pandemic, that was basically appetizers for some people before they came home and date.
Yes.
You really could make a meal out of it, like Seinfeld said. Now, at what point did you decide that you needed to spread your wings broader than just Costco?
Well, we were we always wanted to spread our wings broader than Costco. So it wasn't so much that it was a moment in time that we decided, what happens with Costco is they demand so much volume that you sort of spend a bunch of time chasing that. But we launched pretty soon after into Walmart as well, and into a couple of grocery retailers. But In 2019 and 2020, I would say is when we really turned our attention to the grocery channel and to the convenience channel, because we felt like we were really relevant in those channels, and honestly just hadn't had the right team and the right amount of bandwidth on in our focus to hit them. So that's what we did in the last 2 or 3 years.
Sounds great. And Elizabeth, same question for you.
Demos is certainly in Whole Foods. Everybody hands-on, all the answers are in the stores, and even then it changes. But who is the customer? If you are in specialty retail, those do tend to be those informed, health first consumers are your consumers. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's the world. That's just the world in that particular transaction. But even after the pandemic, non-tasting sampling we found to be very effective. Just educating, if you look at a shelf in our category, there's so much chaos before the eyes. I mean, I've stood in front of sets and not been able to find lava, and it's right in front of my face. So, they don't know the difference between plant-based and cow's milk. And so just having somebody there, it really makes a difference. And then being able to give them information about your particular product benefits. IRCs were very useful. We did do a cool little IRC under the foil. So it wasn't the first time purchase. They get it home and woof, it's good on the next trial. Not a high use rate, but really a good use of packaging space when you only have, 5.3 ounce. So touch points, very expensive, but if it's well executed, it's definitely money well spent, because what's a customer worth?
Value of a lifetime customer. Now, I did have a couple of people chat me really quickly, like ask what a non-sampling demo is like. So can you tell us what you've done? And I'm going to just throw that question to all three of you. So how did you do it?
Well, we just did it because you couldn't give out any live food. So you were able to give out a VIP coupon and a sell sheet and just say, hey, here, and point to the shelf. But it's quick. So in a way, it was a lot less falderal. We actually had some better performances with non-sampling just because it was a little bit more efficient.
Right. Has anyone else tried anything non-sample or creative during this pandemic time?
I mean, I think just in general, like the hustle, I embarrass my kids constantly in grocery stores because like I'm always checking the condiment aisle, like in every store we go to, and I'm dragging my kids with me. And then I always have coupons on me, VIP coupons on me. And, if I see somebody shopping in one of our categories and our product is there, I'm like, here, just try this product. You're going to love it. Here's a free bottle. You get it for free. Here's a couple more coupons. You can give them to your friends. And like, I mean, that's part of it. Just getting into the store with coupons and getting people to sample, try that first bottle is the most important thing. I mean, if you can't give them something to sample with, this is not available to most people. I mean, it depends if your capability to do this, but here's the other thing that's really saved us is doing these smaller packets. We started doing this for food service, right at the end of COVID, as food service is coming back, and so we can do these types of, and we even bought a heat sealing machine, which is non-expensive, and we seal a bunch of these packets and cups together with a coupon and sometimes like some literature about us, and we give those out. We send them to dietitians at ShopRite to give out to their customers and things like this as well. So, and Sprouts managers love to give them out, these types of things. And then, so Yeah, so we just have to, we've been just trying to be really creative about it, about getting people to try the product as much as possible. We even have a thing on the website where we'll send them a packet of these things with a coupon too. So
yeah, I've even seen soda companies giving 3 free cans, just pay for the shipping. Now it turns out to be about the same as if you had gone to a store and bought 3 cans. But for most people, they're like, yeah, I will try a new brand that says that they are functional beverage or something different. Ilana, how about you? Have you tried anything creative?
I mean, like everyone else, sampling is our absolute best way to get people to purchase a bag. I think that we've also worked and had some good success with dietitians. So having people, when you're a healthier food or better for you food, having that sort of stamp of approval can, I think, have a big impact. And dietitians are all over the place in terms of visibility on the morning news and on Instagram and in stores. And so we've also found that to be a really influential group of people to work with.
I agree. And to summarize some of the chats that are coming in as well, the other options that you have is if you have a fantastic copywriter or great photography or just a really quick snippet of your food. I mean, we have all seen mouth-watering ads. So anything that works like that will work as well to get trial. And the nutritionist, dietitian, whether it's the in-store, Whole Foods has them, Wakefern has them, a few other places have them, or it is just the nutritionists that are online or in doctor's offices. What they can do in recommending is you're really capturing that person while they're thinking about the choices that they're making about food for themselves, for their family, their loved one. And if they're needing to reduce sugar because of a heart issue or because of kids or avoiding obesity, you're getting them right at that consideration and decision point. Even if it's not with a taste bud, they're still thinking about what to go look for. And then describing it and it tastes good, that's that better for you product that is just fantastic and sings off shelves. Is there anything else that you did to support retails when you got in? What did promotional plans look like for you? We've talked about relationship ROI with some retailers. Like sometimes, you have to kind of do what the retailer wishes for you to do because they're bringing in all of the shoppers, right? Not just the ones that are right for you, not just your consumer. What have you tried and what has worked well for you? I'll go with
I would say,
okay.
I mean, selling the dream is always, go back to that because all buyers, I don't care how hard-boiled they are or how many years they've been doing it, they don't want to miss something. It's the fear of, letting the big one get away. So, I mean, there's always a buyer that's gonna break. And sometimes in my experience, it's the old hard-boiled toughest to crack ones that crack first. I mean, I had a buyer at Safeway Denver, hi Michelle, who said, non-dairy yogurt, are you kidding me? Look to it, she's like, they all taste like erasers. And at the end of that appointment, she told us, you're going to remember me as the one that gave you the break. So just you don't really know. I had a Target buyer once with tears in his eyes saying, why don't we sell yogurt with no sugar in it? We have to do better for our customers. These are hardworking people that have very tough jobs, made way tougher over the past 2 years. They're receiving samples in their garages. I mean, really, brokers can make or break the gridlock access if you have brokers and there's so many talented salespeople out there that have, if you can get into a network, it's extremely valuable to entrepreneurs to be able to get just those first couple of opportunities.
I agree. Ilana, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right. You kind of want to give people a chance to try something new, and you do want to sell them on the dream. And then I also think that if you do what Abe described and you launch sort of locally in retailers that you can support, you can really build a good data story. And I think one of the things that that helped us was that we had that good data story when we were going into a lot of our sales meetings. And to the extent that you can say, hey, there's a really big opportunity here, and I have some like strong hard evidence that you're not making a sort of a bet on something, that you're really making a wise and informed decision, I think that can help sort of nudge you closer to a yes. So I would say that combination of, the compelling vision and some data, and it doesn't, it's like either we taste better than every other product, or we are selling better than every other product, whatever that story is. If you can sort of find those one or two data points that you sort of hit in every meeting, I think that can just give people a little bit of the confidence that they need to actually give you a green light.
I agree completely with you. Abe, you had.
Yeah, I mean, so we could talk about promotions, but for getting the buyers buy-in, I think what the buyer is looking for, especially, it depends on the category. Everything depends on the category, and I think that's a big problem that people don't understand. A lot of investors, a lot of entrepreneurs, when they get started out, really look. You really have to look at your own category. Every category is so different. In the economics and the way it functions, and what the buyer is looking for. So like in our boring, shelf-stable, center store category, condiments, slow-moving, they're looking for incremental sales, because when you're going up in ketchup, you're not going to really, even if we crush it for us, we're really not adding a ton to the category, because the volume that private label and Heinz do is so high, right? So we're cutting up. But what we are doing is, the ketchup category hasn't grown in 20 years, right? It's been the same size, same volume every time, slightly, except for during COVID, during the pandemic, where it went up, and then 2021 it went down when people stopped eating at home all the time. So what we offer and what we put on our sales deck is we're offering incremental sales. This is the growth. This is the only category growth. And so what we do now that we have access to syndicated data, this is easier if you have access to syndicated data. If you don't buy, cheat, and steal your way to some syndicated data that you can get to prove your point in the sales meetings. But we show that, no sugar and no sugar added call outs are driving the category growth in ketchup and barbecue sauce. It's like, these are boring, staid categories, and the buyers, they need to show growth. They need to show sales growth. They need to show something every time they move into a new category. And so we show, you double down on this trend, which is accelerating. And this is where you're going to see your incremental growth, incremental dollar growth, incremental unit growth. This is where it's going to be happening. So that's always our story going into every buyer's meeting, every category meeting review. So
I agree. Coming in with a great differentiated product and data is the best way to walk into a sales meeting. Those first few buyers that are going to take you, those first retailers, yes, that is a lot of the founder origin story, how you're differentiated, why you're special, why you're committed to this, and what the trends are in the category, which might be early. But after that, retailers 4, 5, and 6 are really going to be getting you because of your success in those first 3 retailers. So being able to choose those so that they are the right fit does help.
Yeah, one thing on that too is like, if you don't have syndicated data, if you don't have real category data, just showing major trend data. So one thing we've started building in, and that I should have done a long time ago, so we realized no sugars are a big thing. That's our big push. That's our major differentiator. So we've leaned into that, and we go, there's 34 million diabetics in America. and it's growing. And 88 million pre-diabetics. There's only 9 million people following a plant-based lifestyle in the US right now. So just this category, this movement is much bigger than anything else out there. And so that's what we're trying to, you got to create that burning raft, like feeling for the buyer that like, this is happening, this something is you're part of a major movement, you're riding a wave, and that's what you have to like create that sensation for in your buying meeting, in your sales meeting.
You have been using syndicated data. Elizabeth and Alana, have you been able to leverage syndicated data, or the retailers that you're in, is it too expensive?
I'll let you speak, Alana.
Yeah, no, we do use syndicated data all the time. Evie's right. If you don't have it, brokers often have it, or you can get a snapshot of it from someone. It's very, very useful because for all the obvious reasons, but also because it gives you a sense of how your competitors are performing, what's going well for them, what's not going well for them, what kind of promotions they're doing. It's just a real window into your category that you might not be able to get all that information from your buyers in a meeting, but it can really help you stay competitive. So yes, I'm a huge fan of that data.
And Elizabeth?
Yeah, me too. And it also, if you're able to look at it regionally, you can see that maybe there's a regional story. For plant-based, the Pac Northwest just seems to, have pulled away from the pack. Very foodie market. And great retail, lots of independent specialty retailers in the Pac Northwest. So, making sense of breakout reports from distributors takes a special skill. There's a lot of retailers that don't get captured in spins or, Nielsen, but for a young brand, that's really where the story is going to happen. We're looking at, a co-op in Nashville, or, a small chain in Balt Wash, and all of a sudden you see the velocities and you're like, this is not being driven by demos or promotions. This is organic. These are people who are coming back, and that's really the story. And that infra co-op, very big group, very important and very difficult to herd nationally as cats. But if you can get as an entrepreneur in with some local co-ops, just they're as important as a chain, as a big grocery chain. It's worth the time to shine the love there and get cut in.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that co-op? We've touched upon conventional, we've talked about natural, convenience, obviously, in Costco, big chains. Can you tell us a little bit more about co-ops, Elizabeth?
Yes, well, I understand in terms of UNFI, they are between Infra and NCG, they are the third largest volume customer for a $25 billion distributor. That is a lot of units. They all buy individually, however, except for one large one in the Pac Northwest and in Seattle. So you really do, there's a few that have multiple stores, but you really do have to just drive up, knock on the door, find out who your buyer is in the store, network, look around, pick up some beautiful produce. And probably go back 3 or 4 times where you're going to find the right person, and then get started. They will give you a shot, and that turns into another one. If they can be regionally, there's some beautiful co-ops in New England. Brattleboro, and then if you're on the West Coast, Davis, in Northern California, this is where people shop. in Oregon, the co-ops are very, very well shopped, and it's worthwhile. That's all I would say. I mean, I cherish their business. That is where, we are. Getting into Walmart seems like a lifetime away now from where we are, but people are finding us in the co-ops.
Yeah.
I
So
don't
one
know.
thing,
They can support a premium. So if you're just super premium, price is not the obstacle that it would be in a conventional grocery store. So they can command it if you have the health benefits and nutritional benefits to back it up.
yeah. The other thing to think about it is we're also looking at what is a centralized retailer versus decentralized. And just like co-ops are decentralized and need that special love because the buying decision is inside of the store, or maybe they, have a small chain of 5 or 6 stores. But for the most part, each one in the co-op makes their own decisions on what brands they carry. And, I've myself been selling in a brand, and they said, you know what, at this point, we're only looking for boxed water. We're not looking for another bottle of water. We have 13. They're not definitely looking to move away from plastic, but they were bringing in just water just because it was in a Tetra brick kind of a package. And that does really well in Maine, in boating country, where you don't really want glass because you're barefoot a lot. And you definitely don't want plastic because single-use plastic in an ocean is just, that is what you're trying to avoid. So they shop individually. They make decisions with their values. They have a pretty good sense of who's shopping there. And it is sometimes a more affluent clientele and a more health conscious clientele. So definitely worthwhile. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum is the convenience stores. So 7-Eleven is 9,000 stores in the United States. 1,500 are a corporate 7-Eleven footprint and planogram, but the other 7,000 are individually owned by franchisee owners, and they make their orders through their internal system, just like we would on Amazon. But just like Amazon has a gazillion SKUs, they don't know what's newest or what's healthiest or what's selling. So they make safe bets, picking the Pepsis and the Dasanis and the Snickers and the M&Ms. So having someone walk in with your sell sheet and say, you're in this location, you're right next to, corporate America, the bigger banks, you're right next to the university, you're close to a gym. This product makes sense for you because of your location. Everybody shops in a convenience store. They might not do it often, but everyone does shop there. Another question that we have is, give us a sense of how much subscription syndicated data costs. So Abram, you pay for it. So ballpark. I think you're on mute.
Yeah, I'm good. Sorry. So it was a spins account for one category for both channels, and a couple of retailers will cost you about $12,000 to $18,000 a year. So when you pay quarterly, so you're looking at like like $4,000, $3,000 to $4,000, $3,000 to $5,000 a quarter kind of thing. And then there are diversity access programs that can get you like IRI data for free or for cheaper or at a discount, things like that. So if you're a diverse owned company, I would definitely get your certification and look for that. Because it's definitely worth it. Then otherwise, use data in any other way you can for those things.
Other recommendations is to join the food communities. So if you're part of Startup CPG, they have a partnership with Nielsen, so you get to participate in that. If you're part of Food Bevy, they have IRI data as well that you can look at. Plant-Based Food Association sponsors their own research just because they are so specific, and they do need to look at the natural stores that aren't necessarily always covered by the larger program. So they have bespoke research that they're more than happy to share, and membership is cost effective. And I would be remiss if I didn't offer that when we do any type of work, merchandising, display bills, stickering IRCs as a third-party merchandising, one of the things that we've identified as our differentiating factor is giving that data to the founders and letting the founders and the sales teams of our client brands make better decisions in the future. So having the data of all of those visits, and you know exactly what's happening in store, and you have it in photos as well, like a picture tells 1,000 words. It's not the same as going into the store and walking around, but it is a very good and very close second, and speed is, you know, unprecedented. It's data at the speed of digital. So I would highly recommend making sure that you get data from the people that you partner with. They can. It's just, if it's not wired into how they do business, they might find it a difficult request. If it's someone who is data enabled, they'll find it very simple to share that information with you and make you better. They win. Trax Retail wins by having our retailers grow. Our clients grow. We're more than thrilled to see clients go into next retail, next retailer, next retailer, or grow regionally. But that said, sometimes the right thing to say is to say no to growth. Sometimes growing in a more discerning way, or in the way that accommodates what you can do at that moment, is right. So Elizabeth, tell us about the time that you were so tempted, but ended up saying no.
Well, actually, I never said no. I wish I had. It's just, there are so many pressures on entrepreneurs to make monthly revenues, especially if you do have minimum production runs and things like that. But it often is that cohort, if it's regional, if you can just, proof of concept is trickier than it sounds. I love the idea of going into Costco and like winning. I mean, but it's so rare. I would just suggest go slow. There is time, and don't let the money drive it. Just stay where you are, build the story. If the story's not there, then find out why. So sometimes just better to say no. It does take time.
And Ilana, do you have any examples of when you wish that you had said no, or where you said no and knew that that was the right path, right? You can't just say yes to everything.
Yeah, saying yes is really like so much. Yeah, there's so many more examples of times that we've said yes that in hindsight wish we had said no, rather than actually saying no up front, because that's so hard to call. One thing that we did actually a whole bunch of years ago is when we launched in Costco, we had just one flavor, and then we knew we needed to develop more SKUs for traditional retail because we needed to build out more of a banner on the shelf. And we didn't have a cheddar SKU, which seemed like the most obvious next flavor for us. And so we told our retailers we were launching cheddar. We set a launch date. We started to do R&D in the plant, and we couldn't find cheddar that worked for our equipment. And it baked, and it was either really, really oily or really, really bland when it wasn't oily. And we ended up pulling that launch and telling our retailers we just couldn't find a cheese that was up to our standards or something that we wanted to launch with. It just didn't taste good. And we ended up making our own cheese using a recipe that our master cheesemaker came up with to launch cheddar. And that did really, really well. And so it was one of those tough decisions in the moment, because, you know, the sales team was obviously really bummed to have sold something and have to go to the retailer or the buyers and say, we're not shipping this. And that is a huge, you know, they were right, that was a huge bummer, but it was really the right thing for the business to say that we prioritize what this product tastes like, and we're not going to ship something that's not up to our standards. And that felt like a difficult, but was always going to be the decision we made. And so those types of moments to say no, it's like, it's so much easier to say that kind of no, to be honest, than to have a retailer ask you for something and say no, because you kind of want to build your relationships with them. So this was just more about us and our standards.
And Abe, in those lessons that you learned in those first 3 years, were some of those the hindsight 2020 kind of a?
Oh, completely. I mean, it's so hard. I mean, it's even hard now where we are now, because look, you make no money early on, right? And you're desperate to have this make money, unless you have a trust fund, or somebody else supporting you, or you're living with your parents. But like, I had kids. We live in an expensive part of the country. This is not easy. Like, I was just desperate to make this work. And so, yeah, we made a lot of mistakes early on going. We went into super target, like the first year we launched, like in 57 stores, and they were all on the West Coast, and I was on the East Coast, and it was a disaster. A complete waste of money, completely, huge mistakes. We made all those mistakes early on, and then we started building up locally, and luckily, I was just really, really lucky to survive that, because, you're under all this pressure, and everybody, and I used to hate this too. Like, people tell you to go slow, and they tell you to, be really selective on what stores you're going into. And as an entrepreneur, you just want growth. And you're like, I need to raise money. I need to, survive. I need to be able to pay myself a salary, all these types of things. And, it's just really, really hard, because it's a volume business. Everything is built around volume in this industry. So it's hard to be slow. So I would just, as you're getting into this, just really start planning it out, and just really start planning out slower growth. The other mistake we made, one of the reasons I thought I could go fast and go hard, and this is a good thing when you're looking to expand nationally, or looking to expand into conventional, or into a new region, or a new store, is if if there's somebody who has more money than you, a product that is bigger than you, that is kind of blazing the path, and you're following with a better product, or that's niched out in a different way, that can pull customers away, or that can help ride that wave. We did that initially when we first launched. It was Sir Kensington, was like, they were everywhere. They were in the news every day, things like this. They had tons of money. So I was like, oh, we're going to follow Sir Kensington. That was a mistake, because they eventually lost a lot of ACV as well. And so, but now we figured out, now we're following Primal Kitchen. Primal Kitchen launched their no sugar ketchup the same year we did, but of course, because they're bigger, and then they got acquired by Kraft Heinz right away, they have like 2 to 3 times our ACV. And so we're just going in, if they're doing well in a store, and it's, now that I have data, I can really track this. Like, if Primal Kitchen is doing well in a store, and we launch in a store, we do exceptionally well in that store too. And then eventually go up. So we figure we have a better tasting product with the squeeze bottle, so it's more positioned to families. So, we can, with a better price point. And so we're following that, and then, taking that market as it grows. So that takes off some of the risk for you, but like, that's something to look at from a macro standpoint, of looking at, like, how do I know when I'm ready for a Walmart, or even just the Safeway region, or something like that, just to really look at, like, who's gone ahead of you. My only warning on that is to be super careful that it's not super crowded, that you're not like the 8th person in on some wave, things like that, which is probably happening in plant-based right now. So
That is happening. There are certain categories, the dairy one is one, but it's a little bit of where's Waldo, as far as like, finding your brand. On the other hand, for consumers, they have every variation of animal milk and nut milk, and sesame is a seed milk. They have a lot of options, which is great. But it is a tough category, and at the same time, it's also one that it expires, right?
If you're a Me Too player, if you're a Me Too player coming in late, you're just going to get burned on that. So
yeah, the only way to do that is to be a very, very fast follower, and kind of like ride that one bigger wave of like the keto, or the plant-based, or lower sugar, healthy fats right now. We have one question, and I'm going to ask Paul to continue writing on your question, because the answer is going to be, it depends on the category. So I'm going to ask each of the speakers to answer this as if it was their category. So what would you recommend to a foreign company trying to enter the US? Start first selling in Amazon or going directly to retail? And while none of us would tell you to go straight to Walmart, there's probably certain things that we would say if you were coming in with a new condiment, a new flavor spice, Abe probably has some advice for you. If you're coming in with a new plant-based healthy snacking product, Elizabeth is going to have a healthy, a choice for you. And Ilana is going to have an opinion for you if you have, a cheese-based product or a snack or a savory snack that would do well. So Paul, while we talk about what it would be in our categories, and this will be our final question, if you'll let us know what you were thinking of, we might be able to answer your question. But Elizabeth, you want to go first? How would you launch the next plant-based snack if you were coming in from outside of the US?
Well, I just saw plantain, which, Paul, we use plantain in our yogurt. It's actually cultured plantain. So I would suggest, rather than Amazon, going to Thrive Market first. Try to, just the way they have 190 different lifestyle values, and they know more about their customers than probably anyone. And it would be a way that you could fast track. If there was something different, you're not the first plantain snack, but I would recommend that over Amazon just because the acquisition costs on Amazon.
Starting to go up. All right. Ilana, how about you? What advice would you give to Paul?
I would find an importing partner that has relationships already that can work you into their sales and distribution for other specialty imported items, because I agree, Amazon is super expensive and difficult to make money at, but so is retail in its own way. And so I would say that to the extent that you can smooth the sales pitch and bring in product to a distributor, importer that's going to take some ownership of the sales of it, I think you would be in the best position.
Agree. How about you, Abe?
It's again, depends on the category, but I think I would go Amazon if you understand and know Amazon really well. You have the money to build it, because I think if it can help you test the market and what kind of customers you have and where they're buying. So I think you'll lose money on it. It won't be profitable, but you'll be able to figure out the data it'll give you will be really, really valuable. And then if you don't understand Amazon, if you're not great with Amazon and you don't have a good logistics side for it, then it'll just be a waste of time and money. But otherwise, you could get great data on like who's buying your product, who the customer is, where they are, that kind of thing, and then that can help you then drive your retail strategy.
I agree, and I agree with Ilana's recommendation of go with a partner. And I'll just recommend somebody that I've worked with in the past, Bold, which is now Bold with an exclamation point, formerly known as Bold Retail. They do e-commerce, so they are certified in Amazon, but they also work with Shopify and all the other ones, and they can enhance what is already there with their own systems, so that you are flying with as much data as you possibly can, and they improve you. Again, none of these options are super cheap, right? Going from outside inside, importing is never easy, but it is possible, and some great flavors have come from the outside of the US, and the US is definitely a place that loves a great flavor profile. So
I would just add that plantain, obviously being produce, you might also try just seeing what produce distributors can do with it. You know, produce is they're still the cowboys in grocery. They will take things, especially if they're not, you know, if they're semi-perishable and they have a decent, you'll see salty snacks in produce. And of course, nuts and just snacking in general is changing dramatically to be more whole food, plant-based. So produce is, you know, you might find some good partnerships there with some produce distributors as a thought.
Great thoughts. Thank you all. I'm going to bring back Carol to wrap us up. And but again, thank you, all of you, for what you have shared. And thank you to the audience for the questions. Appreciate it. And this has been a pleasure for me.
Thank you, Tina. And thank you, Abe, Ilana, and Elizabeth for sharing your insights and some of the lessons that you've learned while you were scaling your brand nationally with our community of aspiring founders. Thank you all for attending. We'll be back next Thursday on February 24th, same time, 4 p.m. Eastern time, to discuss retail strategies for functional beverage brands. The session is free to attend. You need to RSVP to get the link to join, or the recording if you cannot make it. We hope to see you then. If you have any questions or would like to engage with us, please reach out at info@branchfood.com. We would love to connect. Thanks again to our amazing panelists for taking the time to share your insights and experience with the founders in our community. We appreciate your time and effort. And thank you, Tina, for always doing a great job at moderating. And stay safe, everyone. We'll see you soon, and enjoy the rest of your day or night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Thank you.